So just following up on Caitlin from earlier, she didn't practice yesterday. Why was she not listed on the injury report, or why wasn't the injury report updated like earlier today if she woke up with soreness in her back?
Well, not everybody that doesn't practice or gets a pro day is on the injury report, so that happens all the time. And she wasn't listed on the injury report earlier because we expected her to play.
She did not practice yesterday. Y'all at least knew by the morning she was not playing. Y'all knew by the morning when she said after the workout from
That single exchange changed the entire atmosphere surrounding Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever overnight. Because this was no longer just about a sore back. This was no longer just about one missed game. The entire conversation suddenly shifted toward transparency, trust, money, and whether the biggest star in women's basketball was being handled behind closed doors in a way that completely blindsided fans. The timing is what made this explode. Fans bought tickets expecting to watch Caitlin Clark play. Arenas were filling because of Caitlin Clark. Television ratings were rising because of Caitlin Clark. Entire road game environments were changing because of Caitlin Clark. And then suddenly, only about an hour before tip-off, the announcement arrived that she would not play because of a back injury. That immediately triggered one terrifying question for the franchise. If the organization already knew there was a legitimate medical concern, why was there no earlier injury designation? Now the pressure turned toward Stephanie White. Reporters started asking sharper questions. Fans began comparing statements. Social media exploded with accusations that the organization waited until fans were already entering the building before revealing the truth. And because Caitlin Clark is the financial engine of the league right now, every single detail became magnified. This became bigger than basketball. The moment conflicting explanations started surfacing, the entire story transformed into a possible league-level issue involving injury reporting compliance. Suddenly, people were talking about fines, league investigations, and whether the Women's National Basketball Association could make an example out of the most talked-about franchise in the sport. And that is exactly why this situation has become one of the most dangerous public relations crises the Indiana Fever have faced since drafting Caitlin Clark.
Now, this is the WNBA rules where it says WNBA injury reporting rules require teams to officially disclose players' availability by 5 p.m. local time on the day before a game. If a player's participation is affected by an injury, illness, medical condition, or rest, teams must designate a participation status and identify the exact reason. And this is what the Indiana Fever failed to do.
The core issue surrounding Caitlin Clark was not simply the injury itself. Athletes miss games all the time. Back soreness is common during a brutal professional season. The real controversy was the timeline. According to the discussion surrounding the situation, the Indiana Fever allegedly failed to properly communicate Caitlin Clark's availability status in advance. That matters because professional sports leagues treat injury reporting seriously for several reasons: competitive integrity, betting transparency, media obligations, and consumer trust. And this is where the tension intensified. The transcript repeatedly emphasized that league injury reporting policies require teams to disclose player availability by a specified deadline if participation may be impacted by injury, illness, or medical conditions. If true, then the absence of Caitlin Clark from earlier reports becomes the central issue. The optics became devastating for the Indiana Fever because fans immediately connected the timing to money. Every arena that hosts Caitlin Clark experiences a financial surge. Ticket prices rise, merchandise sales rise, local attention explodes, television interest spikes. Entire franchises have publicly acknowledged the Caitlin Clark effect. So when the announcement arrived late, critics instantly accused the organization of waiting intentionally so ticket sales would not collapse before the game. Whether that accusation is fair or not almost stopped mattering because perception had already taken over. That is what makes this situation so dangerous for Stephanie White and the Indiana Fever. Once fans begin believing they are being misled, every future injury update becomes suspicious. Every coaching explanation gets scrutinized. Every medical absence becomes a controversy. Historically, leagues become extremely sensitive when star player availability impacts public trust. The National Basketball Association has dealt with load management backlash for years. Fans paying premium prices only to discover stars are unavailable has become a league-wide issue across professional basketball. But this situation carried even more emotional intensity because Caitlin Clark is not just another star player. She is the centerpiece of the current growth era of the Women's National Basketball Association. That is why whispers of league punishment suddenly became believable. Because if the league office feels the injury process was mishandled around its biggest attraction, the response could become severe very quickly.
She's a liar. Now, Scott Agnes said this. This is Indiana Fever reporter Scott Agnes. Fever guard Caitlin Clark will not play tonight versus Portland. I'm told it's part of a strategic management plan for the season. So in that tweet, he said it's part of a strategic management plan. Now, fast forward to this updated story on Caitlin Clark not being in uniform tonight. Stephanie White says she found out around 5 p.m.
The most damaging part of this entire controversy surrounding Caitlin Clark may not have been the injury report itself. It was the contradictions. One explanation referenced a strategic management plan. Another explanation insisted there was no management strategy happening at all. Then another explanation centered on soreness discovered later. Once those narratives started colliding publicly, the credibility of the entire organization came under attack. That placed Stephanie White directly in the spotlight. Professional coaches already operate under immense pressure, but coaching the team built around Caitlin Clark is an entirely different level of scrutiny. Every substitution becomes national discourse. Every press conference clip spreads instantly online. Every answer gets dissected frame by frame. And psychologically, this creates a brutal environment, because now Stephanie White is no longer only coaching basketball games. She is managing the expectations of an exploding fanbase, protecting the health of the league's biggest superstar, handling media pressure, and answering accusations about transparency all at once. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark herself becomes trapped in the middle. That is what makes this situation fascinating from a psychological standpoint. Superstars often feel pressure to keep playing through pain because they understand the magnitude of their presence. Every city wants to see them. Every broadcast depends on them. Every sold-out crowd arrives expecting them. Historically, leagues have repeatedly struggled with this exact issue. When transformational athletes enter a league, organizations sometimes begin treating availability like a business emergency instead of a medical decision. That pressure can create confusion, mixed messaging, and public distrust. The same thing happened in earlier eras surrounding global basketball icons whose presence alone determined ratings and revenue. Now Caitlin Clark is experiencing that reality in real time. The repeated questions about her back, her practice status, and the timing of disclosure expose something deeper. The Indiana Fever may not have been fully prepared for the scale of attention surrounding every single decision involving Caitlin Clark. Because when a normal player sits out, it becomes a basketball story. When Caitlin Clark sits out, it becomes a league-wide crisis.
Face, man. These people can sit up there. They sit up there. They'll lie and lie and lie and lie. And make no mistake about it, the Indiana Fever could be facing major punishment from the league office. They did not say anything about her injury. She wasn't even on the injury report as day-to-day. She wasn't on the injury report as questionable, as a game-time decision. Nothing. The Indiana Fever facing major punishment from the league office that could potentially...
The financial implications surrounding Caitlin Clark are enormous. That is why this controversy could carry consequences far beyond one injury report. The Indiana Fever are one of the most visible organizations in professional sports right now because of Caitlin Clark. National broadcasts revolve around her schedule. Road attendance skyrockets because of her appearances. Entire franchise marketing campaigns across the league depend on her participation. So if fans begin believing the organization manipulated information surrounding Caitlin Clark's availability, the damage becomes enormous. First comes fan distrust, then comes media pressure, then comes league involvement. And eventually, if the controversy continues growing, sponsors and business partners begin paying attention too. That is why the possibility of punishment matters so much. Even a relatively small fine from the Women's National Basketball Association would send a massive symbolic message. It would signal that the league office believes transparency surrounding Caitlin Clark is critical to protecting league credibility. The chemistry implications inside the organization are also fascinating. Players hear the noise, coaches hear the criticism, front offices feel the pressure. And if the locker room begins feeling that public controversy is overwhelming basketball operations, the season can spiral fast. Meanwhile, every future injury involving Caitlin Clark will now receive 10 times more scrutiny than before. Fans will monitor reports daily. Analysts will compare timelines. Reporters will challenge wording. Trust, once damaged, becomes extremely difficult to restore. The most dangerous outcome for the Indiana Fever would be if the league decides an example must be made specifically because of the visibility of Caitlin Clark. Because that would turn this controversy into a defining moment for how the modern Women's National Basketball Association handles superstar injury transparency moving forward. And suddenly, one late injury announcement becomes a league-wide warning shot.